r/am I the butthole? Thimothman Cometh says, am I the buttholer for not being friendly with my partner's daughters now that they've warmed up to me? I'm 42, dating Tim, 59, a widower. He's in banking, I'm a bartender. I know what it looks like. His 2 daughters thought the same thing, but he's broke as a joke and I've got a trust fund, so actually no. He's broke because his late wife got cancer. 3 times. He ran up 6 credit cards to carrot ND, mortgage on the house, cashed out his retirement, everything and anything to get her the treatment she needed and then to get treatment enough to see both daughters married. His daughters live 6 hours drive away. We drove to them for Christmas last year and the year before. They ignored me, dragged Tim away when he tried to include me, and prevented their husbands from making even small talk with me by talking over me. Year 1 Tim chastised them, they apologized to him, not me. They blamed the pain of seeing their dad with a woman who wasn't their mum. Year 2, they did it again. This year I told Tim not again. He could go, I would never ask him not to see his daughters for Christmas, but I'll stay here. Tim didn't love the idea, because me going with him means we can share the responsibility of driving when his back starts to bother him. He hates to fly, his 2010 Death Trap is starting to go anyway, so I leased him a comfy luxury ride. My brother has a dealership. He called the girls, super excited that he'd be able to see them more often without having to worry about his back, who then blew up and accused him of spending their mother's money on a bull house and car to impress some bimbo bartender and didn't offer them a dime for their weddings. In the ensuing argument it came out that they assumed there had been a life insurance policy, nor did they have any idea about the credit card debt or the to-carrot ND mortgage that the house was underwater on, or that Tim was looking at foreclosure and bankruptcy until he moved in with me. They did not realize it was my house, that he pays no bills save the water bill, man takes excessive showers, and shared groceries. Now, the girls want my number. They are sorry I felt lonely at Christmas. They want to come visit and stay with us next year, conveniently in summer. I live near a beach. I've told Tim absolutely not about giving out my number. I'm happy to be polite if they come to visit Tim, but we are not going to be friends. If they had talked to me for even 2 seconds they'd have understood. I'm not shy about admitting the only thing I have ever contributed to my blessed financial state is not developing a crippling coke addiction like my cousin Danny did. Tim thinks I'm being too unforgiving. They would have warmed up to me eventually, but knowing how generous I'm being with their father has made them warm up quicker. I maintain I don't care about now or later. They had their chance to not be catty brats over incorrect assumptions that I. Master Blaster says, info, did your partner ever do anything to correct these assumptions, or was he keeping up the lighter safe face? Thimothman Cometh says, yes and no. Yes, because I don't believe Tim had any idea the girls weren't aware that it's my house. I've heard him refer to it as my house to the girls. I also had heard him tell them I worked as a bartender for fun, that I don't need to work. No, because Tim is 1, prideful and 2, protective of them. He shielded them from what was going on behind the scenes, so that they could spend as much time with their dying mother without being worried about him. No, he mentioned some things about the move helping him when he first told them he was moving in with me, but the argument was the first time he actually laid everything out to them in no uncertain terms about the house and the debt, and cashed out 401k TX. I'm probably giving him the benefit of the doubt, because I love him, but I think he thought they would figure things out without him having to spell it out, and that their coldness to me was solely because I'm not their mum, and they miss her so. Master Blaster says, if he's prideful, it makes sense that he wouldn't correct them or intervene. Saying you bartend for fun doesn't necessarily imply that you have money. It could just as easily mean that your partner covers all the bills, so it's just a hobby you have. Calling it your house also doesn't mean he hasn't taken over the mortgage or is paying for everything else, so you can afford it. Hell, they probably thought he bought you the house. I would be upset too. I'm going to go with a light esh. Your partner mainly, for allowing them to believe you were siphoning off his resources, when he could have easily had this conversation with them the moment this became an issue. The daughters for being cruel to you, although if they were receiving misinformation, it makes sense that they would be. Like you said, it looks a certain way. For them to know absolutely nothing about their dad's situation, he'd have to be lying, or intentionally hiding some things from them. You, least of all, for failing to put yourself in their position and understanding that they may have been misled. You haven't been an asshole yet, but if that's what happened, you should try to forgive them. They seem very apologetic, and you certainly don't owe them anything, but if you plan on remaining in this man's life you should accept their apologies and start working on building that relationship, even if it's very slow and distant. Otherwise you're going to put your partner in a position where he has to choose between you. And that would eventually make you an asshole too. Edit, you guys are right, they weren't necessarily very apologetic, but it seems like they are making an effort to repair the relationship. I agree, I don't think Op needs to give them the time of day until they give her a genuine apology for the way they treated her, and she certainly should be careful with her money. But I maintain that, if they do apologize sincerely, and Op remains closed off to forgiveness, which is what she's claiming she's going to do, she would also be an R. If she knows their father let them believe she was a gold digger, it's really him she should be angry with. Stardust Shinat says, NTA you don't owe them a damn thing. That being said, they are his kids and you gotta consider that if you don't extend an olive branch that means he will be pulled in the middle and eventually push will come to shove. Is that something you're comfortable with? Timothman Cometh says, you make a good point Anne. I don't know. Right now I'm like, sure I can go back to doing my own Christmas with my cast of characters, did that 4 years before Tim and I got together. But what happens with birthdays? His 60th is coming up, that's a biggie. What happens when the girls have kids and he wants to go there more often? I asked Tim to move in with me so he'd have less stress in his life, not more. Am I the butthole? Flat Experience 3247 says, am I the butthole for arguing with my neighbor? When my girlfriend got home last night, I noticed one of the guys from an apartment near us was having a go at her while she was parking. He was getting all worked up, pointing and talking down to her, and she looked visibly uncomfortable. So, I went down to see what was going on. The guy clammed up when he saw me, and my girlfriend told me he'd been giving her grief about her driving, saying she took the turn too slow, took too long to park, and all that. I turned to him and asked what he thought he was playing at. He tried to brush it off as a joke, but I told him to back off and to leave her alone. I made it clear that he'd deliberately cornered a woman just to have a pop at her for no reason, and that it was pathetic. He kept insisting I was overreacting and repeated it was just a joke. So I asked him how exactly that was meant to be funny, but he had nothing to say. I warned him to stay away from her and told him if he tries this again, I won't be so polite. He then got defensive, saying I had no right to threaten him. I pointed out he had no right to intimidate my girlfriend, just to boost his own ego, and then backpedal the second someone called him out. He muttered something about me overreacting and being out of line, so I said, well, now you know how she felt when you decided to treat her like that. Am I the butthole for arguing with my neighbor? Stalvis says, NTA, he kept insisting I was overreacting and repeated it was just a joke. So I asked him how exactly that was meant to be funny, but he had nothing to say. Frickin' A. Alguna Rubius says, NTA. It was so easy for him to bully her when she was alone, but as soon as you stood up to him, he folded. What a paper tiger. Too bad staff Russa says. NTA people seem to feel they can berate strangers. I'm sorry he did this to your girlfriend. He just wanted to be mean and thought he was safe from consequences. My goddaughter has a rescue husky mix that is a large dog. Buck is 4 years old and non-aggressive and kind of a big baby. I'm glad, because if he was aggressive he would be hard to handle. Twice when walking Buck she has come across someone screaming at a stranger, or at a group of strangers, women, and children, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. My goddaughter goes, and stands with Buck between the screamer/aggressor and the victim/victims. The aggressor always leaves quickly. One aggressor was with a group harassing an elderly woman in a grocery store parking lot. These incidents are during the daytime in nice areas. I worry about my goddaughter's safety in case the aggressor has a weapon. I'm glad you stood up for your girlfriend. Raina Mist says, NTA, you or your girlfriend should contact the property manager and let them know, so they have it on file, in case something like this happens again. Pumpkin Powerful 3292 says, NTA, you were protecting your GF from a misogynist bully and called him out for his abhorrent behavior. Exactly what I would have done. Yours wasn't an overreaction, but a proper response to him. And he knows that. That's why he scurried away from you. I dare say, he won't be making that joke again. Kim Books and Cuts 11 says, so I asked him how exactly that was meant to be funny, but he had nothing to say. Shocker. That's because you were right. He was being an R just to be an R. Good for you for standing up for your girlfriend. I pointed out he had no right to intimidate my girlfriend, just to boost his own ego, and then backpedal the second someone called him out. Damn straight. NTA. Sophia Bray says, as much as I hate people who harass others they perceive as weaker, I hate the ones that fall back on it was just a joke, bro, most of all. Like, dude, you're a thing. Just own it. Several SA 7028 says, NTA. If this happens again, record his behavior and call cops. Do not engage, and certainly do not engage in any physical confrontations. Queen Zero Chaos 9963 says, NTA, the world needs more men like you that call the bad ones on their BS. Miserable Dentist 70 says, NTA. Well done. Scrapples 000 says, NTA, good for you buddy. Few things piss me off more than people bullying other people just because they're physically weaker or smaller. Proud of you for sending that jackhole back with his tail between his legs. Pixel 2468 says, NTA. See this shit all the time at work. Male clients thinking they can shout and swear at my female colleagues, but they never do that with myself or my other male colleagues. It really is just a case of a small man taking advantage of a woman to try and feel big. Thedrunkshintist says, repeated, it was just a joke. When someone uses this to excuse their bad behavior, guess what? They are automatically the R. NTA. r/am I the butthole? Temporary Cat 1078 says, am I the buttholer for going nuclear over my family turning my room into a hostel? Edit. I used CGPT to summarize what I originally wrote. It left too much out. I hit my breaking point. I 23 female, live at home with my family. Moved to a new state about 1 year ago. When we moved in, everyone had a room. A 5-bedroom home. I have 4 siblings. At that time, the eldest didn't live with us. A year ago, my eldest sister moved back home due to a mental health issue. When she moved in, everything became cramped. I did my best to ensure she felt welcomed. She needed a room, so my parents moved my youngest sister out of her room and gave it to my eldest sister. Bought a couch bed for my youngest sister and set it up in the open loft. After 6 months, my eldest sister had another crisis and stayed in a facility for about 2 months. My youngest sister moved back to her room. When eldest sister returned, she didn't have a room again, and disliked the couch bed. At that time, my brother had been sleeping in the living room by choice / sometimes in my father's office. He would fall asleep gaming. He gave his room to our sister. It was gross, she hated it. I spent a few days at my partner's house and the rest of the time at home. My sister asked to switch rooms. Hesitant at first, I agreed. Happy to have the only room downstairs. I spent the next 3 days cleaning out my brother's room. There was trash everywhere, food caked into the carpet, and the walls were covered in his dirty footprints. My partner helped, and we transformed the room. I spent my own money on cleaning products and supplies. I left a floor-length mirror in my old room for my sister, because she loved it. I wanted to ensure she felt good about returning home. Fast forward a few months, I've kept my new room clean. Since my brother is roomless, he sometimes sleeps in my room when I'm at my partner's. I don't mind, aside from the smell he leaves behind. He cleans up after himself when I let him know. Him coming home. Last week, my parents looked at beds for my brother. My dad was ready to buy a king-size bed for the upstairs office, but my mother wanted to find a better deal, and they forgot about it. So, my brother is still roomless and bedless. This past weekend, I spent a few days at my partner's house. While I was gone, my eldest sister told my parents she doesn't like her current room. She felt it was right to give her room to my brother, who doesn't have a bed. My parents were happy to avoid finding my brother a new bed. She decided she would stay in my room while I was gone and sleep on the couch when I was home. I was not included in this conversation at all. I came home today and found out. I'm hurt and upset they made this decision without me. My siblings think I'm overreacting and selfish for not wanting my eldest sister in my room. I believe anyone without a room can stay in my room, but not my eldest. Beautiful Peak 399 says. Time for you to move out. Temporary Cat 1078 says. That is my plan for sure. Invaluable says. NTA, I feel you should edit the original to include that my nuclear is staying home more often, so they don't use my space, and maybe putting a lock on my door. I didn't lose my temper by screaming. The room situation is bizarre with this musical chairs game experience. You do need to move out as you're already planning. Jamesbpa says. Noon should be in your room without asking you. Entertainer Much says. Do you pay rent for this room? If not, then slight as your parents appear to be supportive of this room roulette, and it is their house, even though it sounds like a bad idea for many reasons. Temporary Cat 1078 says. No, I would paid for rent, but they never asked. Due to not paying rent, I do my part. I'm the only person in the family that cleans. I make sure the main living areas are clean, 2 living rooms, kitchen, dining room, laundry. When I'm not home for a few days, the house gets pretty bad. If I spend a long enough time away, my parents pay for a cleaner. On top of that, I make dinner every night I'm home for the whole family. I also grocery shop for the house. I have given my parents money if they ever ask, and they have. He Arthur says. So. You're the breadwinner for everything but the bills. And you have to give up your room. Come on. Stop doing everything. Move out. Lower Emotion 6062 says. 5-bedroom home, 4 siblings, 1 set of parents. What's going on with the other bedroom? Jumpy Sakotash 241 says. Why are you okay with anyone without a room? Stay in your room. But not your eldest sister? Majored 2679 says. You're all too old and need to get your own places. Reasonable at 6082 says. Hang on. Whose house is this? Is it your house and they live in it with you? Is it your parents' home? Sounds like a beggars can't be choosers situation. Or if it isn't your house, you don't really have a say. You're lucky to be there at all. You'd have more of a say if you were a minor, but you aren't. If you don't like the conditions, you could get your own place where you have control over stuff like that. Jamotaku says, I mean, since you are still living at home, I'd say being upset is normal, but on the other hand, we commenters don't know her sister, so maybe if you talk to her so she doesn't mess with her room when her not home would be good. No Animal 4921 says, none of you should be living with your parents fighting over rooms like this, lol. Mumatha Queen says, you have every right to your privacy. You and your sister are no longer little girls. Respect and privacy are fundamental. Ben Franklin says, living arrangements within families are always complicated and territorial. Then there is the school of thought, if rent you do not pay, then you really have no say. Although in your defense, things to sound chaotic. Time to spread your wings and leave the nest, baby bird. Stupid one says, it's your parents' house. They own all the rooms and have set the standard and expectation of swaps and shares as needed. If you don't want to live like that, that's fine, but time to get foe. Sucks that you spent all that money tailoring it to you, but that's life. Am I the butthole? Automatic Camera 411 says, am I the butthole for not giving attention to my brother's girlfriend? Sorry for my English, it's not my first language. Recently my brother, 25 male, brought his girlfriend home to meet the family. She stayed for 2 days. For some context, my brother told us beforehand that she was stressed about meeting us since she come from a small family. My family consists of me, 19 female, my sister, 21, my brother, her boyfriend, my other brother, 27 and 29, my sister-in-law, 28, and my nephew, 2 months, and my 2 parents. Since we knew she was a bit scared, we decided to try and not overwhelm her by asking too much question. They both arrived Friday evening at 22:30. Since I was up, I greet them with my parents before going to sleep, unlike my sister who was in her bed. The morning after, my brother, 29, his wife, her sister and their kid arrive. In total we were 10. We spent the Saturday spending time all together, playing board game. In the evening we had an apéro where we officially welcome her with a cheer. On Sunday my brother sent a long text without even talking to her directly to reprimand her because she didn't greet his girlfriend properly, even though she did, but on Saturday morning. That made her cry a lot because she didn't understand what she did wrong. After that we spent the whole day discussing and catching up. She left after dinner, my brother drove her back to the train station before coming back home. Here come the real issue. Apparently, we didn't give her enough attention throughout the weekend. She felt unwelcomed and complained to my brother in the car. On Monday, I had already left. My brother and my mother had an argument about the whole story, and my mom is scared that my brother is getting manipulated by his girlfriend because he would never have done that before. Personally, I don't appreciate his girlfriend. She didn't help in cooking, putting the table together. She didn't even directly interact with any of us. We were the one talking to her. I was ready to look over it because she made my brother happy, but after hearing that she complained, I'm not so sure. Am I the butthole? Pumpkin Powerful 3292 says, NTA, your brother set up the whole family with how stressed she was beforehand. So, tell him that was on him. He set the stage. You were merely players in his little show for his GF. You tried to comport with his wishes, and if you all came off as aloof, that would be on him. And also, he flubbed up obviously by not also informing her that she was expected to help out. So, I wouldn't blame the GF here either. It is really all on your brother. He screwed this all up. Tell him that, and maybe everyone can have a do-over and get it right this time. Observion Daily says, NTA she did it on purpose. She actually didn't want to visit. So she make it out like your family is the one who unwelcomed her. Keep inviting, show your brother who's the problematic one. In other words, don't give them any ammo to criticize your family. Kill them with kindness, so next time she criticize your family she'll be the vindictive one. Individual at 9213 says, NTA. Your brother set up what sounds like the most stressful way for you to meet anyone. Candace Sekalis says, how did he Oberstomakaha feel welcome point I've Sheffleton appreciated. That's in her point your family did nothing wrong but not give extra attention. Ditto Head 4 of us says, your NTA. What did she expect, a parade? East Parking 8340 says, your brother chose to arrive at the time he did. Your brother knows, or should, at least, have a higher level knowledge of your sister's habits. For early birds, and also people who have just been working hard, 2230 is incredibly late and to send a diatribe that your sister wasn't up to greet her, akin to having the servant arrayed in front of the estate when the lady of the manor returns, is utterly and completely ridiculous. Your brother chose the method of meeting the family. If she was really that anxious he should have done it by degrees, sibling here, parents there and only then thrown her into the middle. She shouldn't have to be informed that she should help out. Anyone who has any manners offers to help. You stand up and help clear the table. Small things. Partners who actually want to build a relationship with their so's family will start conversations, be pleasant, be helpful. Her behavior, combined with the expectation that you'd all be standing to attention when she arrived, is distasteful. I get the impression that she believes she is better than your family as a whole and doesn't need to try. I suspect this is fueled by your brother's sycophancy and will result in less and less contact between him and the rest of you. NTA. Proper Sense 1488 says, so this is about the sleeping sister, right? The frick is wrong with your brother? NTA. Internal Honeydew 42 says, NTA I don't know that anybody is in the wrong. It may be that, even though she was nervous and shy, your brother may have set her expectations to be ready for your family, to be a little more interested and invasive, and where you were all trying to make her comfortable by not asking a bunch of questions, it wasn't what was expected. It's possible that it's all just a misunderstanding. Your brother could just be upset that she misunderstood your family's intentions because he really likes this woman. Love can very often skew the way a person sees things, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. I think that open communication and explaining to him that everyone was trying to not overwhelm her and make her feel comfortable is why they weren't being overly inquisitive. Your family changed their normal behavior out of love and respect for your brother and his girlfriend. They didn't do anything wrong. Her interpretation of the situation was that nobody was interested in her. I think that if it's explained to her and your brother, they may be able to understand, and that everybody can get a second chance at a first impression. Roy says, NTA. The relationship will gradually go wrong if what you say about how he didn't help at all, and then she complains that she doesn't get enough attention, like, what? The only thing you can do is point it out to your brother. Am I the butthole? It's Jaxo says, am I the buttholer for refusing to drop a coworker at his house, even if it's close to the company? Title. The past 2 weeks I've been dropping him at his house after work, and he'd intentionally make me stay by doing something together, so he can ensure his ride back home. Mind you that the direction of his house would make me go back from a totally different road that I originally go to when I'm not dropping him, but I still chose to do it cause I knew how it feels like to not have a car, but has just pushing it at this point. He asked me yesterday if I can drop him and said sorry man, but it's in an opposite direction of my house's road and he hasn't talked me today all day long mfao. It's just not my responsibility to drop him, and I was being nice in the beginning since I'm new at the company. Alternative.1026 says NTA because he sounds like an entitled asshole. If he's not offering either a token amount of petrol money or equivalent, buying lunch/coffees, or whatever, then zero obligation, let him walk or Uber. It's Jaxo says. Well, he did none of those. The more and more reasons for me not to do that again honestly. Alternative.1026 says. If he did offer, and you said no you'd still be NTA regardless, but at least it'd be polite of him. It's the thought more than anything. Nothing in life is free. Babos says. It sounds like your coworker is being a bit entitled. You have your own reasons for not wanting to give them a ride. Plus not everyone is comfortable with that kind of thing. It's perfectly fine to set a boundary here. Ricology Adam says. NTA. You're never required to give someone a ride, and while there's a little bit of a disconnect here, where you were doing it because you were new, to make a connection, to impress a coworker, realizing that it's not working for you is fine. You were doing it, in practice it's not working out, sorry, but the rides are over. It's especially galling if he's making you wait after you are done. It's not only valid, but necessary to stand up for yourself here, or else he'll continue to take advantage. It's Jaxo says. I was trying to make a connection, but when he made me stay 45 minutes after I finished all my work was the last straw for me. I was genuinely being nice about it and didn't show him any bad feelings either. And the day after I told him to respectfully frick off. Wise Woman 1 says. NTA. He was intentionally making you stay at work to ensure a ride home? Is he your boss? It definitely cold been handled with more tact and a little lead time. Starting next week I have a commitment that will make my after work schedule tight, so I won't be able to give you lift anymore. Sorry. Cat Ladder Club says. Let him be mad and not talk. We have to stop thinking we shouldn't make people mad or hurt their feelings. You are not obligated to help at all. He is a grown adult. He needs to figure it out. It is okay to have boundaries and say no. If he doesn't like it, that is a him problem. NTA. Tempting Penguin 369 says. NTA. Sometimes the price of doing a kind favor is that the person expects you'll continue doing the favor. And of course he glommed onto the new person, because when you're new, you might want to be extra nice to your coworkers. By the second day, he should have been offering money for tolls or fuel. Oh well, there's always ride-sharing services to get him home. Stalvis says. NTA, it's just not my responsibility to drop him, that's a bingo. Snookin Penguin says. You can simply say, this isn't working for me any longer, and you'll need to make your own arrangements going forward. NTA. Foreign Cow 1189 says. NTA, you are now his complimentary Uber. Extension issue 3560 says. People are always nice until you tell them no. Invaluable says. Is she at least bringing you lunch as thanks for the ride home, or does something else nice for you? NTA. Erin 114 says. You're good here, man. It's one thing asking for a ride once or twice, but to expect it to be done all the time now, nope. You are within your right to stay no man, sorry I can't. N3Ma1 says. NTA. If it's that close, he can walk or pay you to take him. r/am I the butthole? Crafty Collar 4657 says. Am I the butthole for kicking my parents out for overstepping our boundaries? So my parents live with me, my husband and our 4-year-old son in our home, and have done so for 2 years now. Now the entire time they have been here they have constantly been negative, criticizing and complaining, trying to get involved in our finances, judging us for what we buy, and for even spending our own money, absolute no respect for our belongings, trying to take over parenting our son, bullying our son by belittling his feelings, and mocking/shaming him when he's upset, giving unsolicited advice, and when we don't accept it they give the silent treatment, and complaining to people about us behind our back. We brought all of this up, and told them their behavior was not okay. And to please stop treating us both like children. We are nearly 40, please stop telling us what to do. If we want your advice we'll ask, and please don't treat our son that way, or undermine our parenting. Just because our way of parenting is different to yours doesn't mean it's wrong. This didn't go down well, and my dad didn't speak to us for 3 weeks, then the behavior just continued. It became a toxic environment, and was really affecting mine and my husband's mental health, let alone our son's mental health and behavior. Our son is also anaphylactic to dairy, and we have a rule that our home is completely dairy free. Our home is his safe place, where we can all relax and not worry. My parents agreed to this rule as a condition of living with us. We tried our hardest to make it work, but our last straw was finding dairy food items in their room. We brought it up, told them it was blatant disrespect for us, our home and most importantly our son's safety, and they used every excuse possible to justify their actions. So we asked them to move out. Our child's safety is priority and our mental health was suffering. They were just ignoring every single boundary we asked them respect, so it was time for them to go. But now they're acting like we're the bad guys, and telling everyone that will listen that we are the bad guys. So am I the butthole for putting our son and our family ahead of them and their need for accommodation? Or are they for treating us like shit and trying to walk all over? Burnt heterodoxy says. NTA. They were tar for everything, but endangering a child with an anaphylactic allergy is unconscionable. Crafty Collar 4657 says. Agreed, we can't even believe that they didn't take his allergy seriously and put him in danger, and they still won't accept any accountability and just keep making excuses. Proud Geek 1019 says. And they never will. Kicking them out was the only option you had. Good for you, hope you all have peace going forward. Dairy Main 14 says. What took you so long? Malibu Cola says. NTA. They didn't respect you or your husband, and they brought dairy into your house, which puts your son at risk. I hope you've gone non-contact with them. They made their bed, and they have to line it. Philiburger says. Remember, when you were a kid, that it was their house, their rules? Well, now it's your house and they have to abide by your rules. They can't seem to do so, so they've now lost the privilege of living in your house. NTA edit, fixed a dreaded grammar error. Cascatless says. NTA. Take the dairy as a blessing that finally got you to kick them out. Like a hike says. AITA for not kicking them out 5 years ago. The moment your family's mental health started suffering is the moment you should have kicked him out. It should not be the risk of your son dying where you draw the line. All 3 of you were dying slowly by 1,000 cuts anyway. Acrobatic Increase 69 says. NTA let them spout to who they want. A leopard doesn't change its spots. I'm surprised you've allowed it for 2 years. You need to think of your family, you, your partner and child. An Espeditonid says. NTA, why did you let them move in the first place? This cannot have been completely new behavior. And why did you tolerate them this long? Hopcodlink says. NTA. Communication in prior and not sudden. Them staying would be dangerous to your child both physically, health-wise, and emotionally, belittling. You lost your peace of mind, which is the purpose of a home. They don't continue to at least mend their way, so. No option. Educational Royal 3880 says. NTA. Block the toxic permanently, and also any flying monkeys. International Fee 255 says. NTA, make sure to tell everyone who complains that they could have killed your child and they didn't even care. Might be time to go completely no contact. No thing. Roach 4248 says. NTA should have thrown them out a long time ago for bullying your son. There is no way you ever let them set foot in your home again. They have no regard for your son's health and well-being. Bambino 1991 says. NTA, drop the whole line of if you live under my roof, you will live by my rules. Last Jules says. NTA. Atari says. NTA, here's the thing to hold on to. It doesn't matter who they tell. It doesn't matter if they all think you're the bad guys. Anyone who believes that isn't someone who cares about you or your son, and therefore they are not worth your time. Let them take out a full page ad in the national press if they want. They knowingly endangered your son's life. They made you so miserable when they have easily just been normal. You do not want your son to grow up thinking that if people treat you like crap, you just have to take it. You don't want him to grow up thinking that other people's opinion of him is more important than his comfort and safety. Am I the butthole? Simple Knowledge 6423 says. Am I the butthole for informing a young man of his rights, allowing him to get away before police arrived to search him? I'm in the UK, and we have what are called community support officers, aka plastic bobbies. Basically, they look a bit like uniformed police at a glance. They act a bit like real police officers, but they have very little actual power or authority. Don't have handcuffs, or a baton, no powers of arrest, pretty much glorified security. If they see a crime, all they can really do is alert the real police. They act as a deterrent, I guess, and save money on real police walking around. So, as I'm walking through a local estate, I see the local community officer stood with a young lad I recognize as local, who looks pretty nervous. I walk over and ask what's up. The officer informs me they are waiting for the police to arrive as he suspects the lad may have some cannabis on him, so they'll be doing a search. I ask him if he's told this lad he has to stay here and wait for them, to which he says yes, I've told him he has to wait until the police arrive to conduct a search. So I tell him, well, you can't hold him here, you know you can't. I turn to the lad and tell him as much, to just leave now, he can't hold you here, so jog on. He looks a bit unsure, asks if I'm being serious, so I say yay, go, quickly now, he's not allowed to hold you here, but the police will, so leave before they get here. So he does. The community officer and I then have a chat, all friendly. I actually chat with him quite often, so we know each other. I've got respect for what they and the police need to do, but I felt like he was keeping the boy there under false pretenses, and that's just not on. He tells me I shouldn't have told him he could go. I tell him he shouldn't have not told him. So, given the situation, am I the butthole for letting the lad know his rights and that he was free to go? Theory 240 says. NTA. As long as you are completely truthful in your statements. Never the asshole for encouraging people to exercise their rights. / Simple Knowledge 6423 says. Well, everything I said is truthful, yes. It was a pretty simple situation, really. Artistic Thought 7309 says. Informing someone on their rights is never an a / whole move. It is what makes society democratic. Well done, you. NTA. Simple Knowledge 6423 says. True. Nevermore Novelist says. If your instructions were truthful and the CSO had no legal rights to detain the kid, then you're definitely NTA for informing the kid of his rights. Simple Knowledge 6423 says. Complete truthful, a very simple situation, really. There was no argument from the CSO. Think he was just annoyed about being called out on it. No consideration 8800 says. Bullies always are. Megan Hines 28 says. NTA. You didn't help him escape. You gave him a quick crash course in freedom. The plastic Bobby might need to brush up on what he can actually enforce. Rights are rights. You just pointed out the exit. Stuffhead Squash says. The problem wasn't that the guy didn't know he wasn't allowed to detain people. Sounds like he just fully lied to the kid. Weak Water says. NTA. Honestly, you just reminded the lad of something the officer probably should have made clear from the start. Community support officers sometimes seem to lean on the look of authority rather than actual authority, which feels a bit unfair, especially to someone who might not know their rights. Plus, the kid was just nervous, not acting out. It's not like you encouraged him to flee a bank heist, you just gave him a heads up. Now he's on his way, and the officer gets to feel a little more honest about his role. Win-win. S1M0NS3Z says. That was false arrest. If he told the kid he had to stay, I think he might have weed. Is far from valid grounds for a citizen's arrest. NTA. Not only are you not an ass, you were doing your civic duty and protecting the rights of a fellow Briton against the encroaching police state. Cressida Cole says. I'm flabbergasted that a police officer would arrive for a youth suspected of minor possession. NTA, by the way. The CPO should know better. Sign D007 says. NTA. You didn't break any laws, you just reminded the kid that plastic bobbies don't have the power to play cop. Knowing your rights isn't a crime. Maybe next time, the officer should brush up on his own limitations. Swishbone says. NTA. The UK has policing by consent without fear or favour. By enforcing non-existent power of detention, the XO was certainly acting with fearful intent. Kick him as Adora says. NTA. You were right to stand up for the kid. It's not cool for the community officer to hold him there like that, especially if he doesn't have any real authority. You did the right thing by letting him know he could leave. One negative person says. NTA way to be a bro. I don't know the current state of cannabis laws in the UK, but fines for such a non-offense can be onerous, and arrests can be downright devastating. Strakir at side 2313 says. NTA. I doubt the actual police would have been in a rush to search a lad for some cannabis on an estate. Probably would have taken hours to get there. R4F says. I can see how this system could act as some kind of deterrent. But, based on your post, the XOS are just citizens paid to call the cops. Any deterring they're doing is entirely based on everyone not being fully informed of their rights, which he graciously gave the kid a quick lesson in. So, NTA. r/am I the butthole? Weak feature 3879 says. Am I the butthole for putting all of my roommate's dirty things in front of her door after she didn't clean them up? I 19 female. I'm living in an apartment with two of my close friends and a fourth roommate that I don't know well at all. I was initially nervous to move in with a girl I didn't know because I didn't want her to feel left out since my friends and I were already part of a friend group. But things up until now have been great, and while she hasn't shown any interest in being friends, our fourth has seemed overall kind and chill. 3 nights ago our fourth threw a Halloween party with people we weren't familiar with, so I ended up going home and locked my bedroom door, just in case, to avoid the loud noises. I had no problem with the party, since she let me know in retrospect. I'll let her know that the very next night my friends and I would be having guests over for our own party. I assumed she would know to clean up her mess, because we'd have people over. I figured a day was enough for her to clean it all up, but I guess not. The morning of my party I got home, and our apartment was a complete mess. Dishes, blunt tobacco guts in our sink, which clogged it up, trash everywhere, sticky floors, and our entire apartment smelled like weed. I'm pretty sure she was aware none of us would be okay with her friends smoking inside our place. I texted her and gave her the benefit of the doubt, again reminding her that we had plans, and asked her to clean. Apparently she left without cleaning and sent her 2 guy friends over to clean. They showed up and did absolutely nothing. I'm not even sure why they came. It was still a mess when they left and I came back downstairs. I ended up having to mop and clean everywhere. There were clothes and other items, and I didn't want to just throw them away. This is where I'll be honest, it was kind of a pettiness thing when I left the stuff in front of her door, including some trash. My friends and I were mad because this was not our mess to clean, and she put zero effort into doing it herself. We have our party and stuff, and earlier today I got a text from her ranting about me putting that stuff at her door. She told me I could just thrown the stuff away myself, and she would apologized. That's fine and all, but ugh. It's just very rude and disrespectful in my eyes. I do feel bad for being petty, but her not cleaning showed me in my eyes that she doesn't respect us. My friends agree with me of course, but I still feel bad that she got upset about it and now sees me as a bad roommate/person. Am I the butthole? Loquacious 555 says, I think you were able to prove your point and your disgust for the state she left the house in. Petty, but NTA. Forever Country Girl says, I might have put it all on her bed, providing her door wasn't locked. Aquarius Alias says, I have done this exact thing, I put her dirty dishes inside her bed, in fact. Stoicstfu says, NTA she chose not to clean and didn't like the consequences of the mess being in front of her door, so she couldn't evade her responsibility a 3rd time. I don't care how chill she seemed, this failure is extremely disrespectful and immature on her part. The golden rule of communal living is cleaning up after yourself. Ike Factor says, NTA and why do you care about the opinion of a shitty roommate who lets her guests smoke and ruin your apartment and thinks it's okay to leave and make all of you clean up? She can die mad about it, as she's an entitled RH for telling you that you should have cleaned up her mess because she would have apologized, which makes no sense. She's not sorry, she's pissed she had to do anything. She should pay you for acting like the maid service cleaning up for her. Podcast Junkie 8706 says, NTA, and I'll be honest, the WIBTAs baffle me. First she and her friends trash the apartment, then she tries to outsource her responsibility to a couple of dingbats who don't do shit. I hope she learned a valuable lesson about personal responsibility. When she lives on her own, she can live as disgustingly as she wants. Literal not landfill says, she essentially admitted to you that she's mad because she thought she'd get a party and not clean up after herself and get off scot-free with an apology. I think it is great that you've established that you're not a doormat and that if she tries to pull something it will likely backfire. Otherwise she'd just try to get away with more stuff and pretending to be sorry. It is easier to get forgiveness than permission is a popular kinda joke, but not really in my language. NTA. Wicked Nonna says, time to find a different roommate. Educational Royal 3880 says, NTA. She is. I am for real deal says, NTA, and if you had just thrown everything away, you know she would have flipped her shit, because that was misers, how dare you. Big Candle Love says, you cold thrown the stuff away, but wasn't she meant to do this? Get her out. Unmasked Zorro says, not to be that guy, but I think you meant that she told you in advance, rather than retrospect. Retrospect means she told you after the party. Genuinely not trying to be that guy, honestly just wanna help with using the word in the right place. Anyway, thing out of the way, I wouldn't even call it petty. I think it was a completely valid reaction. Glad she'd have apologized. But apologies don't fix broken plates. You still cleaned her shit for her. Disgusting behavior from her. Sorry, my bad, would never cut it. If she was super hungover and got to it late. Still super shit, but an argument could be had. But to have sent people over to look like an effort was made shows she was fully aware of her actions. She burnt that bridge with that. She never had any intention of taking responsibility, and now she's just mad because you called her out on it. 150% NTA. Do you have the power to kick her out? Friendly Client 6242 says. NTA. Bestie and I lived together in college. We always had a third person, usually they were pleasant and clean. One time he lived with a guy who wouldn't clean up after himself, especially dishes, and ate our food. We ended up taping and labeling zones in the fridge. One time, after asking him repeatedly to clean his dirty dishes, my bestie piled his dirty dishes up in his bed. He was pissed, but cleaned up his mess, and didn't do it again. Living with others means you have to respect shared spaces. You all need to sit down and clearly define what that looks like. It was rude of her to make a mess of your shared space and leave it, even if you didn't plan to host a party. Am I the butthole? Organic Moose 7796 says. WIBTA, if I refuse to take responsibility of arranging funeral matters for my estranged father. Background: my parents separated when I was 1 due to my father's infidelity. My mother made ends meet by working several jobs in another country and sending money back home. I was pretty much raised by my maternal grandparents until my mum got citizenship in the country she was working in and moved us over. I was 9 when we immigrated. For the first 9 years of my life, I saw my dad probably 2 to 3 times a year during the holidays, and after we immigrated to another country, I saw him maybe once every 4 years from when I was 9 to now, I'm 35, and all those times were me going back and visiting other relatives and calling him to see if he wanted to meet. Also, between the ages of 9 to 18, he gave my mum $6,000 in total for child support. He never once called me or initiated a meeting after we moved. Yesterday, my stepsister, his daughter from his first marriage, called me saying he passed away, and due to some legal matters she's currently fighting, she doesn't think she has the capacity to make his funeral and other arrangements. I think there are debts and other things involved. I'm not sure. I haven't spoken to them in more than 2 years. WIBTA, if I refuse to even fly back. That country is also full of corruption and not the best in terms of human rights. I really don't want to be tangled with their mess. I have 2 small children to take care of, and I just cannot be stuck in a country where I don't even know how to speak the language fluently anymore, if there are more things to just funeral arrangements. Pumpkin Powerful 3292 says. NTA, you didn't have any type of relationship with him to be this involved in his funeral arrangements. His daughter from a previous marriage should bear that cost and the plans herself. She seems like she had a better relationship than you with him. I think she is just trying to rope you into paying for it all. And for what? Nothing that I can see, since there is nothing there for you. It's sad, but that is the way it is. You owe him, her, or anyone nothing at this point. Tell you stepsister you'll just send the smallest bouquet of flowers you can find and call it a day. And don't feel guilty, as you have absolutely nothing to feel guilty about here. Spinner off Ion says. I wouldn't even bother with a bouquet if I were op, just a response that they had zero relationship with him and aren't going to be involved at all in making arrangements or attending the funeral. If the sister gives op a hard time and I were op, I'd probably say I have more of a relationship with the mail carrier than I did with my father. Terra Sages says. NTA, reading between the lines, she doesn't just want you to go down and make arrangements. She wants you to pay for the arrangements. No. You don't owe it to anyone to do the work or pay for services. Tell your stepsister that you can't help. The family can figure something out without you. Madtown Mitch says. You have no obligation whatsoever here. He's a stranger to you. Candyland Canada says, NTA do not go if your instinct is that it is unwise. However bad you think that it will likely be worse. Who knows what financial responsibility you could end up with once stepsister has you in her clutches. There is no upside to you going, and plenty of concerning downsides. Snergista says, NTA. He clearly wasn't interested in being a father to you, so you have no duty to him. Happy Flounder 7236 says, NTA you don't owe him or the men a thing. Stigli says, NTA who dis? New phone, thank her for the info, but then say it's not your problem. You were nothing to him in your life, so WJ why should he suddenly matter to you, because he is now dead. You have 2 small kids, and unlike him, they are your priority and you won't be abandoning them for an indeterminate amount of time to sort his affairs out. Organic Moose 7796 says, thanks everyone. I talked to my mum and grandmother about this, and they dug into their gossip grapevines back home. You're alright, it's about money. She has been involved in a legal case and looks like she'll lose, so she called me. Apparently he passed a few weeks ago. She didn't call until her legal issues happened. Themen Tother Left says, NTA. It may make you a pariah on your estranged dad's side of the family, but it doesn't sound like that's anything new. You have your own small family now, your kids need you more. OK Complex 5075 says, NTA. You didn't have much of a relationship with your father. I can see why your stepsister doesn't want to deal with it considering it sounds like she has a lot on her plate, but that's not your problem. Sunteam Found says, no relationship, no need to show up. You owe nothing to your sperm donor or his second family. Protect your peace. NTA. Accomplished Mud 1658 says, NTA if in my country there is something called emotional abandonment, which is a legal term for parents who abandon their children. Legally, these children are not obliged to care for parents who abandon them. And you can't go to a strange country. You're not gonna help anything without knowing the place, language, and people. Funerals are for the alive, and he doesn't need one if they don't have money. It's not your fault. My disaster awaits says, NTA take it from me. If it feels off there's a reason. Take that into consideration and heed it. Stay home. Take care of yourself and your family of little ones and move on with your life. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.